أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين أما بعد. Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to our latest show of Quran and Science, and also wish you all the best and the best of ibadats of the Mahe Rajabul Murajjab or Mahe Asab. This beautiful month which we also mentioned yesterday and which you also must be hearing a lot from our other speakers on Vilayat TV, that Rajab is that blessed month which is also known as Asab, Rajabul Asab. Asab as spelled as Alif, Swad, Ba. One of the meaning of Asab is very unique. Asab means to pour down in a huge quantity, to pour something out in a huge quantity. And the reason in the tafasirs for the month of Rajab being called Asab is that, like in other months, the rest of the year, if we personify Allah's blessings or Allah's mercy or Allah's bounties coming down or reaching us as a soft rain, as a drizzle, Asab would be a heavy downpour. It'll be like a torrential rain, a very heavy downpour of rain. Or for the kids to understand it better, like for example, if they're in the water park and if they are in the sprinklers and they are getting the soft showers from the sprinklers, and suddenly the huge bucket that fills up, and as soon as it fills up, the huge bucket pours down gallons and gallons of water. So Rajabul Asab means the pouring out of the blessings of the Almighty, the blessings and rahmat and mercy and nemat of the Almighty in huge amounts. And it's also kind of like, as some ulamas have described for the youth, for the younger generation to understand it even better, that like it's kind of a warm-up for the month of Ramzan. It's kind of a net practice for the month of Ramzan. And as we prepare for the month of Ramzan, so we start preparing from the month of Rajab. We start warming ourselves up with the ibadats, with more namaz, with more amal, and with more nawafil, and with more du'as, and with more and with the fasts, as much as we can manage. Then comes the month of Shaban, and then followed by the holy month of Ramadan. So this beautiful month is related to so many things, and among other so many things, it is also related to the births of some of the very chosen and the blessed personalities, some of the Aimas. As we discussed, as we mentioned in our previous program also, that this month has the birth anniversaries of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, who was the Baqir al-Ulum, the disintegrator of knowledge, and the disintegrator of most of the sciences and most of the scientific disciplines that we study in detail now. So he was the one who had originated the branching out of all the scientific disciplines. Then it also has the birth anniversary of Imam Ali al-Naqi alayhi salam, and also the birth of Maulai Kainat Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam. These personalities have a very close relation to our discussion. All these personalities, they are very closely linked to our discussions, the current discussions. Like in our previous program, I emphasized a little bit about some of the works which were initiated by Imam Muhammad Baqir alayhi salam. And then of course Maulai Kainat, he is the Amirul Mu'mineen. He is the only one who could claim himself as by Bismillah. Because our current discussion is about letters and numbers, and If you had the opportunity of watching our previous episodes in which we had discussed the history and the origin of letters, of how the letters or the letters of alphabets in different languages came into being, and the very word alphabet is actually alpha and beta, alif or ba. So, and as they transformed from old Sumerian, then Phoenician, then to Greek, and then to Latin and Hebrew and Arabic. So I'm not going back into those details because we did an extensive discussion, a very detailed discussion on the alphabets. But to bring you back or to connect the dots with the letter ba. The letter ba, just to refresh the memories of some of you viewers, and to enlighten those who could not see the previous programs. The letter ba originated by a symbolic language. The symbol for letter ba in the beginning was Beth. The letter name was Beth, like alphabet, so it was alpha and beta, Alf and Beth. Beth, since the older times and even in modern, in new contemporary Arabic also, Beth means house, a place, an abode, an apartment, a place where somebody lives. So the shape of the harf ba, the letter ba or be as we call it in Urdu, it signifies a house. It was symbolic of a house. And the dot beneath it, it signified as being taken, being occupied by somebody, that this is the house, and so that nobody mistakes the shape for any other structure, for any other shape, for anything else, the dot was placed beneath to signify or to symbolize it as a house which is occupied by a person. The birth or the wiladat of Amir al-Mumineen, Maulai Kainat, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, was an exceptional birth by itself, because he was the only person, he was the only human being to have ever been born inside the Baytullah, inside the Khane Kaaba, inside the house of Allah, the cubical symbol of the house of Allah. And it has many things connecting as a whole, forming it or giving it a holistic picture to understand the importance of that area, of that structure, of that Kaaba. And for example, we'll be discussing it later on, like for example, in the month of Ziqat, another one of the sacred months, one of the second one of the holiest month, the 4 sacred months of the Islamic calendar, Rajab, Ziqat, Zilhijjah and Muharram. So Ziqat also from the times unknown was considered as a sacred month. So sacred that even in the times of Jahiliyyah, the pagan Arabs would discontinue their wars, their battles. They would stop their battles if there was one going on already. And the meaning or the word ziqad itself means to sit down, to take a break, to stop doing what they were doing and to sit down, take a leave, take a short break. That was what was meant by ziqad. Among the many important and sacred dates of the month of Ziqat, one date is the 25th of Ziqat. 25th of Ziqat is the Islamic Earth Day, or the Dawul Arz, the Yom-e Dawul Arz. Dawul Arz, quickly going through it because we'll be doing it in detail during the month of Ziqat. Dawul Arz was the time, was the period when the Almighty was spreading the earth's crust, spreading the floor or consolidating, spreading the continents as we know of them, the land areas. The first patch of land, the first area, the first stretch of land that was ever created, because as the earth, being a planet, was cooling down from the ball of fire, was cooling down, forming, taking its shape, oceans forming, the highs and low areas forming, developing. So when the Almighty created the Earth's crust, the continental parts, which were to become the land parts, the first area or the first patch of the continental mass which took shape was the area which even now holds the Khane Kaaba above it, meaning the floor beneath the Khane Kaaba was the first patch of Earth's crust to come into being, to take shape as the landmass. So long before any life started on the earth, that area was the first one to come into being, to be stretched out. Then when Adam and Eve were sent down, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, he was also given some scriptures, he was also given some some sahuf, some scriptures which we also discussed earlier in one of our earlier episodes when we were discussing that how the letters and numbers and how the scripts and how all these things come into being, as the earlier prophets were the ones who had taught the mankind the languages, who had taught the mankind the scripts, the letters and numbers, how to come up with them, how to form them. And like for example Hazrat Idris, the fourth of the prophets, beginning from Adam, Hazrat Idris alayhi salam, he was the fourth prophet in line. He was the main tool maker. He was the one who had constructed, who had built the first pen, whatever shape it was, or whatever medium, whatever material he used as a pen, reed or word or quill or whatever. But he was the one who first created or built the pen as a medium to write something down, to note something down, to scribble something down, to put shapes, give shapes to the sounds. And Hazrat Adam alayhi salam, Adam was also sent down 20 pages of sahuf. Now 20 pages are not the 20 pages of the letter size 20 pages. They could be 20 pages of any size back then, and the medium is also not known because paper was definitely not made. Whatever medium of that kirtas, whatever medium of that scroll was, it consisted of 20 leaves, was given to Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and it contained 20 major languages that the humanity which would begin would be using. So the earlier prophets were the ones who had initiated the languages, the spoken languages, the written languages, the letters, and eventually the numbers also. And we have discussed the numbers and letters in detail, how they came into being and what formulas were applied and used and what methods were used to, first of all, counting, and like how the place value came into being, and then the invention of zero and so on and so forth, and then the algorithms and how we get all those numbers, this complex science of numbers that we have now. So the letter Ba was also one of the few most ancient of the letters that were formed. Alif and Ba were one of the initial shapes or the letters which were taught or which were given to the people. Because in the beginning there were very few, there were only 10 to 12 letters, basic letters, and then they further were modified into more alphabets, more sounds to suit the scripts or to suit the needs of the writing and the scripts. Now, like, you know, every different language has different numbers, like Arabic has, I think, 56 letters, or and like English has 26 letters. Urdu has a different set of letters. So every language has come up with a different number of letters to its language. But the harf-e-ba has the same sound. Like in English we have B, Greek we have beta, again Hebrew Beth, English Urdu Be, and in Arabic Ba. And it follows the same principle. Of course, in English, the letter B is written very differently, but it has modified a great deal from its original Phoenician and Greek and Hebrew shape. But until the Hebrew and Arabic are more commonly, more closely similar to each other. So the letter Ba, the interesting shape, the shape of a house, and the dot beneath it. We are discussing numbers, and like our discussion of numbers, and the reason for taking you into the whole discussion of numbers was to try to bring you to understand the amazing and intriguing method of infusing those numbers in the Quranic ayahs and words and surahs. Like for example, some of the ayahs, some of the surahs have been designated certain numbers, and the entire Quran is based on the prime numbers, main numbers, the main coded method. Because like if in our previous program I had shared with you the different names of the Quran. That Quran is called the Allah Parvardigare Alam. Within the Quran has called Quran by different names. It's called like the Lu'lu'e Maknoon, like it's like a hidden pearl, just like a pearl is hidden in the oyster, in the clam shell, under layers and layers, safe and protected like something very valuable. Then Quran is explained, called in the Quran like an egg, just like an egg is enclosed in a shell, and within that shelled oval shape, it contains life, like an egg contains life form. Looks dead, but actually it contains life within it. So meaning the Quran enclosed in a shell, but it contains life because it's the code of life. And it also is called the like a seed, like something which is wrapped in covers, in many layers, in many covers. Quran was revealed in the spoken Arabic, not in the Imla'i text, not in the written Arabic text. It was revealed in the Arabic, which was the spoken language. That is why many people understood many words which were not even there in their language before. Like for example, the word Rab, like for example the word Hamd, the word Muhammad. They understood these words, but these words did not exist in their Imla'i script, in the Imla'i or in the written Arabic language. Because these words, these are just the examples of some of the examples of the many words that Quran has, that these words, they carry infinite meanings. Like the word Rab is very difficult to be correctly translated into to signify its proper meaning. The closest translation that we come up with is, in Urdu we call it palne wala, in English we call sustainer. But Rab is much more than that. It carries a huge meaning, a very vast meaning, a very infinite meaning. Then the word Hamd, that Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, that praise be to the Almighty, that is the closest translation we come up with. And Hamd is actually, it carries the meaning about praising in all possible and impossible senses of the words, and to an infinite degree. We cannot encompass the degree, the category of how much the praise should be, or about what the praise should be, because the Almighty is La Makan. Parvardigare Alam is La Makan, meaning it cannot be enclosed, it cannot be contained into any structure. It's La Makan. It doesn't have any form. It cannot take any shape. It cannot take any form. It cannot come inside any size or shape. So it's La Makan. It doesn't have any. So it's beyond anybody's understanding. So some of these words, they carried infinite meanings, and they were far more superlative. That was why the claim of the Almighty was that, like, if all of you can, get together and try to come up with one surah or even 10 surahs or one surah, or even come up with 10 ayahs, and then later on Almighty said just bring one ayah similar to that. The part of challenge was not to just come up with the verse matching, and the reason why even the geniuses of that time could not come up with even a single ayah, even a single verse matching any of the text of the Quran, was the heavily coded words, the meanings, the depth of the words, the infinitely vast meanings of the words, with the density of the words which it carries. The Arabs of that time also, or the linguists, the master linguists at that time also understood that like these words, they carry heavy numerical values, they carry heavy numerical codes, and that was the challenge of the Almighty, to try to come up with anything matching the verses of the Quran. So I'll quickly tell you how the the numbers came into being, and just quick refresher that the numbers, how they came up with, and then I'll give you a very quick review of what numbers are, and to try to give a very brief definition about the prime numbers, because Quran and the Quranic messages are coded by the prime numbers. And we'll take you to part of the presentation. I'm not explaining the whole thing, because it'll be going back much further. So this is like the numbers that we write are made up of algorithms like 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., called the Arabic algorithms. Excuse me. Algorithms, by the way, algorithms are from Khwarizmi. Like Al-Khwarizmi was the one who had come up with algorithms, who had invented algorithms, and that's why algorithm is actually the distortion of the names Al-Khwarizmi, to distinguish them from the Roman algorithms, because the Roman algorithms were what we call the Roman numerals even now, as 1, 2, and 4, etc. The Arabs popularized these algorithms, but their origin goes back to the Phoenician merchants that used them to count and do their commercial countability. Then ever given a thought that what gives the shape, that how do we get the shapes of the number 1 and then 2 and 3? Was it just by chance, or what was the theme, what was the whole idea behind the shapes of these numbers? What is the logic that exists in the Arabic algorithms? So if you look at them closely, the algorithms written in their primitive form, and just check it out. Okay, so this was the whole science behind the shape. If you see 1, it was called like one angle. The shape contained only one angle, and that determined the number 1. 2 was initially made like the letter Z today, or Z. It has 2 angles. 3, as you can see, 1, 2, 3 angles. Number 4 containing 4 angles. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same way, the number 6 has 6 angles. Number 7, many people still write 7 by crossing a line. It contains 7 angles, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The number 8, of course, 8 angles. Number 9, having 9 angles. And the most interesting of all, 0. It's called 0 because it has no angle, 0 angle. It's quite interesting, right? So this was the way I just wanted to share with you that this is how the numbers came into being. And the letters, of course, I won't take you into the details of how the letters came into being. And but then what is the relationship between numbers and letters? So This presentation of mine was dedicated to Imam Jafar ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, the great Muslim scientist and philosopher, because our Aimma Tahireen, of course, were the ones behind teaching of all the teachings and all the imparting of these knowledge, because these knowledge were the ones which were unknown to the pagan Arabia, and the enlightenment only comes by the ones who can have the strength to call themselves the Madinatul Ilm and the Babi Madinatul Ilm. So with another presentation, I will show you the, okay. Then coming to numbers, decoding the Quran. Excuse me. I'm sorry. All right. Now trying to understand how the Quran works by using the prime numbers. Okay. First of all, what are the prime numbers? Like natural numbers, what we know the numbers as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10. They are called the natural numbers. Then a prime number is a natural number that has two unique divisors, 1 and itself only. Like for example 2, the number 2 or number 3, they can either be divided by 1 or by themselves. 5, 7, 11, 13, and if you look at it closely, I'm so sorry, excuse me. If you look at them closely, all odd numbers are not prime numbers. For example, 9 is not a prime number, 15 is not a prime number. So only those numbers which can only be divided by 1 or by themselves are the prime numbers. So the list goes on. Then a composite number is a natural number that is the product of multiplying prime numbers. Like for example 4. 4 is a product of multiplying 2 by itself. 2 into 2 makes 4. Then 6, of course, by multiplying two prime numbers. 2 multiplied by 3, we get 6. Then so on and so forth. If you see all the other numbers, all the other composite numbers, they are a product of multiplying the prime numbers. Then 1 is the unit for building all natural numbers. Then 1, like I said, that is the additive building block for all natural numbers, like 3 equals 1 plus 1 plus 1. Like we keep adding 1, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and we can come up with any number. Prime numbers are the multiplicative building blocks for all natural numbers. Like for example, 3 equals 3, but like 3 multiplied by 3, we get 9. 4, like I said earlier, 2 multiplied by 2, we get 4. Then like if you see, these numbers cannot be multiplied by, cannot be divided by any other number. All right, then the composite numbers, like I said, products of multiplying prime numbers in one unique way only. Like for example 12, we can obtain 12 by multiplying 2 by 2 by 3. 2 into 2, 4, 4 into 3, 12. 19, sorry, like 51, for example, this is a mistake here, I'm sorry, it's 91. 3 again, like 51 is obtained by multiplying 3 by 17. So the distribution mystery is a little kind of unique, that distribution of prime numbers, that how do they come up, how are they distributed. It's within natural numbers is a bit mysterious, and it doesn't have any strict, it doesn't follow any proper particular mathematical formula, except that it is diminishing as the numbers go up, meaning as the numbers increase, the prime number, like the numbers go up, the ratio, I mean, it diminishes, it decreases. Like if you see here the number of primes, the ratio is 40, and then the ratio keeps diminishing as the numbers increase, as the numbers go up. A very brief history of the prime numbers, like prime numbers have actually, baffled, and they kept the scientists and mathematicians busy for, for a long time. Like they first were identified in 300 BC by Euclid, who proved that the diminishing of prime numbers never stops, and there are infinite number of prime numbers, meaning there is no end to the prime numbers. They can go on, and the diminishing prime numbers doesn't stop. Then in 230 BC, Eratosthenes developed a sieve method for finding prime numbers below any number by sequentially removing all numbers that are multiples of prime number below the square root of n. This is a little more detail for some of my young children, for some of my young friends who are who are students of maths and science, and who can find this out, and they can find their maths and algebra really interesting by looking into it, and by finding Quran so mathematical that they can study it mathematically. So that is why I just wanted to share some of these findings. Then in 1793, Carl Gauss claimed that the density of prime numbers is inversely proportional to the natural log of n. All right, now the structure of Quran. The Quranic structure based on the prime numbers, it's very interesting also. Like, for example, the Quran has 114 chapters, as we all know. The 14 chapters have 6,236 verses in all, and they are distributed as follows. Below here are the surahs, like the first surah, Surah Fatiha, it has 7 verses, the 7 ayahs. Second surah is Surah Baqarah, it has 286 ayats. Third surah is Surah Al Imran, having 200 ayahs. Fourth surah, Surah Nisa, 176 ayahs. Then so on and so forth. You can check it up all the way until the last short surahs, which are the very short ones, like the Surah Kausar, then the Surah Qul, and then Surah Nas, having 6 ayahs, and they all summing up to 6,236 in all. All right. So what's interesting about it, or what's more interesting, is that 114 and 6236, they are composites, yes, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to Almighty, says to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the Quran, the chapter 15, verse 87, that we have given you 7 of the doubles and the great Quran. This is the ayat of Sab'a Masaniya, that we have given you Sab'a Masaniya and the Holy Quran. It is not that we have given you the 7 repeated ones or the 7 doubles and that's it. It is that we have given you 7 doubles and the Holy Quran. Now, there's one more interesting thing. The Surah Fatiha is called the opener, not the opening, like many people translate it as the opening. It's not the opening. The glory to God, making the chapter the opener or the key, like Fatah is actually the key, like Mufati means the key, the Mufatil Jinan means the keys to the paradise, the key to the heaven, keys to the heavens. So Surah Fatiha is the opener, not the opening, but the opener, something that opens, meaning the key. So it means the key. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells to his Habib, tells to his beloved Prophet, that we have given you Sab'a Masaniya, meaning we have given you the 7 repeated ones or the 7 doubles and the great Quran. So if we look at it in this way, that the 7 doubles are explained by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the 7 verses of the key chapter. Like the first surah, Surah Fatiha, it contains how many? 7 ayahs. Yes, 7 verses, 7 ayahs. So Quran equals the key plus message. So if we take out one from 114, if we take out one as the first surah, like out of 114 surahs, if we take out one surah, that will make 113. Now 113 is a prime number. Then verses, the total verses are 6,236 verses. Now, if we take out 7, which is the 7 verses of Surah Fatiha, the end product will be 6,229, which again is a prime number. So 7 here is a prime, and 1 is a prime. So it all comes down to prime numbers. So these are some interesting codes in the Quran, which if we study mathematically, like, there is no, this is what is meant by the readable text, that we have sent you the Quran in the readable text, not in the imla'i text, but in the readable text. All right. Then their digit sums are 7 equals to 2 plus 9, which equals 11, again a prime. 1 plus 3 plus 9 equals 13, again a prime. I'm sure you're getting it, because 7 is the 7 verses. Then 7, 2 plus 9, like for example, like the 29 words, it has 29 words and 139 letters. 7 verses in Surah Fatiha. We are breaking down Surah Fatiha into 7 verses, 29 words, and 139 letters. All are prime. So that is the key chapter, the opening, the opener, not the opening, but the opener. So the key is opened by all prime numbers. All right. Then if we count them from left to right, 729139 is a prime. If we count them from right to left, 139297, it's a prime again. So their digit sums are prime, which is 31. If we count it from left to right, it comes to 13, a prime number. If we count them the other way, it comes to a prime number again. Now, the key verses, like letters in each verse are 19, 17. If you break down like the 7 ayahs, the 7 verses, and if you break down the letters in each verse, like 19, 17, 12, 19, 19, 18, 43, 17, 11, 19, and 43, they are all primes. 12 and 18 are composites, but when we add to either side, the results are primes. For example, 17 plus 12 equals 29, a prime number. 12 plus 11 equals 23, a prime number. So this is what it means. It is therefore suggested that the paired verses complete each other's meanings. So if we read the Surah Fatiha, it comes up it is totally based on prime numbers. Now let's begin Surah Fatiha. We'll begin Surah Fatiha from what? From Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Now Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that whatever is in the Quran is in Surah Fatiha, and whatever is in Surah Fatiha is in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and whatever is in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is in the first letter Ba, and whatever is in the letter Ba is in the dot. This was further explained by Maulai Kainat one night when Ibn Abbas asked Amir al-Mumineen about to explain Surah Fatiha, and Maulai Kainat started by explaining the Bismillah, started from Bismillah, that whatever is in the Quran is in Surah Fatiha, whatever is in Surah Fatiha is in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, whatever is in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is in the Ba Bismillah, and whatever is in Ba Bismillah is the dot beneath the Ba, and I am that dot. Now, if we try to, reason out logic and try to reason out more and more, let's begin from the Phoenician letter, the letter B, the Ba. meaning I'm the by Bismillah, meaning I'm the dot, meaning I'm the dot or the owner or the resident of the house. That is one explanation, that Maula Kainat was the one and only who was born inside the Baitullah. Indicative of the vilayat, that the vilayat comes from the Almighty. That is why our school of thought, the school of Tashayyu, explains that the vilayat or the imamat is ordained and determined only and only by the Almighty. It cannot be assumed, this designation, this status cannot be assumed by oneself or by a group of people, by election or by voting or by selection. This is only and only done. And that was the reason for having Maula Kainat born inside the Kaaba. You all know the whole story. You all know the whole story of like how Bibi Fatima bint Asad, the mother of Amir al-Mumineen, when she was experiencing labor and she was in pain, she went to offer supplication and she did the tawaf, she circumambulated the Kaaba, and she stopped at one point holding the wall of Kaaba and asking the Almighty to help ease the pain that she was going through. And suddenly the wall, it breaks open. It cracks up, and doesn't just crack up, it gashes up, it opens up. Now, before I heard it from anybody, like some years ago, I mean, any normal human being, even a man, let alone a woman, and let alone a woman in that situation, about to enter labor, the first instinct, the first human instinct, when one sees, because when a crack occurs in a wall, it doesn't occur very silently, very quietly, because it was a thick brick wall. So crack occurred, there must be some rumbling, some noise, and when it broke open, when it opened up, the first instinct of anybody would be to back up, to back off, run away, or even if not run away, to get back, move back, that they might get hurt, they might get buried under the wall. But the mother of Maula Kainat, she entered the Kaaba, she entered through the crack, and once she entered, it closed back again. So these were no ordinary occurring. This was nothing very ordinary or something, because it was Khane Kaaba was a citadel. It was the place where it was like a common hangout of that day. It was kind of a town center where people would commonly just lounge around, hang out. So that place was never empty. So there were definitely other people around. And when the whole thing happened, and when that lady entered the Kaaba and the wall closed back, extremely extraordinary situation, totally unexplainable situation. It was no magic. It's totally unusual. And for a lady not to get scared, not to back off, not to go away, not to ask for help, not to cry for help, not to call anybody for help, she just entered. And then you all know what happened. So these special arrangements creating extraordinary circumstances to have the vilayat or the imamat take birth inside the Kaaba, inside the Baitullah, to signify that the vilayat, that the house of vilayat, that the status, the designation of vilayat, it is min janib Allah. It is only and only from the Almighty. It cannot be assumed, it cannot be handed over, it cannot be taken by any other worldly method. So the vilayat of Amir al-Mumineen, the birth of Amir al-Mumineen inside the Baitullah is also one explanation of the by Bismillah, and that the wilayat, it was the birth of wilayat. Then another explanation of by Bismillah is that the accumulation of all the ulum, that all the knowledge and all the secrets the Quran holds, all the codes, all the embedded knowledge, all the hidden mysteries, all the open and enclosed and the muhkam and the mutashabih ayat, and all the explanation, everything that the Quran holds is the dot, and the dot is me. Hence Maula's claim from the Mimbar Kufa that Saluni qabla an tafqaduni, ask me before you lose me, because he was the container, he was the container of the Quran. And we have so many other hadiths to support that, like al-haqqu ma'aliya wa aliyu ma'al-haqq. Haqq is where Ali is, and Ali is where Haqq is. And the Quran is again the reflection of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. There was one explanation which I found very interesting, which I in one of the discussions a very long time ago, when this microchip first came into being, because like I come from the generation, I belong to the generation that we have seen the development of computers, we have seen the development of the microchip and the tiny circuits, like the calculators, the hand, the palm calculators, and the small, and like just like you have those handheld devices. So when we open up the tiny, the very, very fine circuits, and like, you know, the tiny cells and the very fine chips and the SIM cards and all those things, looking at those things, my late father, he commented that this could also be the meaning of by Bismillah, that the microchip, such a tiny microchip, it contains the huge world of information, millions and millions of bytes of information. So that dot can also be indicator of the microchip. Such a tiny particle, such a tiny chip can contain millions and millions of bytes of information. So back then, for those Arabs, it was difficult to understand that how can one man have so much knowledge, could have so much learning, could know the universe inside out. How is it possible for any world? Because those who did not understand Maula could only see a human being, and they only saw them, despite all the miracles and despite all the unusual things, their perception, their comprehension could not process that information, they could not process that fact that what wonders and what miracles can spirituality do to a person. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen was one of the Ahlul Bayts. But like we see that people who came close to and who associated themselves so close to Amir al-Mu'mineen, like Hazrat Salman Farsi, Hazrat Abu Zar Ghafari, or Janab Fizza, we see that these people also were capable of doing wonders. Their level of spirituality was so much that they could understand the mysteries of the universe as much as their comprehension would expand, only by trying to get close to the source of information. The closer we are to the source of light, the more enlightened we are. It's as simple as that. So I'll try to just bring this to this. Then number 9, Bismillah. Interestingly, the line, the verse Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, if we break it down into letters, if we break down the letters, like for example, Ba, Sin, Mim, Alif, Lam, He. If we break down the letters of Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, they come to 19. If we count the repeated the letters with shad, they would come to 21, but if we take them as single, they would come to 19. One of the hadiths of Payghambar Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that every time anybody says Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim before beginning anything, before starting anything, it repels or it stops or makes the guardians of hell back. It makes the guardians of hell sit back and move back from that person. That answer is in Surah Mudassar. Surah Mudassar is the 74th Surah of the Quran Majid. Surah Mudassar means the cloaked one. And in the verse 30th, Parvardigar Alam has called out that we have given I'm sorry. That we have appointed, and on it we have appointed 19. That we have appointed the 19 angels. On it we have 19. On it we have 19, that is the 19 guardians of, and we have set none but angels as guardians of fire, and we have fixed their numbers except as a trial for unbelievers, in order that the people of the book may arrive at certainty or yaqeen, and the believers may increase in faith. Surah Mudassar, the cloaked one, it says that we have appointed on it, meaning Alayhatis Adal Ashar, that on it we have appointed 19. Over it are 19. So over it are 19 are as the translation and as the exegesis explains us, that the guardians of hell are 19 in number. They are 19 in all. And the total number of letters in Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim are 19. While studying for it, I also came across something very interesting, that the names of the Panjatan Pak, alayhimus salam, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan, Hussein, if we break these names into letters, if we break out the letters like Mim, Ha, Mim, Dal for Muhammad, plus Ain, Lam, Ye, Ali, plus Fa, Alif, Twa, Mim, He, Fatima, plus Ha, Sin, Noon, plus Ha, Sin, Ye, Noon, and we add them up together, they add up to 19. It is then when I learned that the names of the Panjatan Pak alayhi salam also total up to, the letters of the names also total up to 19. It wasn't surprising anymore that why would the angels of hell would be repelled, would move back, would step back, would get down every time we invoke the mercy of the Almighty, calling Him Rahmanir Rahim, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Because Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is that amazing verse which appears 114 times in Quran, which invokes the mercy of the Almighty, and through which the Almighty likes to introduce Himself as Rahman and Rahim. Although we say like there are 1,000 attributes of the Almighty that we read in some of the du'as, like in the Du'a Joshin-e-Kabir, we read 1,000 sifat or attributes of the Almighty. But the two attributes that the Almighty Himself likes to identify Himself, or likes to introduce Himself, or likes to define Himself as Rahman and Rahim, full of mercy and benevolence, the merciful and the benevolent. So He is the Rahman Rahim, and the Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim is also known to contain the Ism-e Azam, And there are many miracles and many miraculous stories attached to the verse Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, that the amal and the wird of just simple Bismillah with all the faith from one's heart. If we say Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, the Aimma alayhi salam says you can move the mountains. The only key is to have the faith. We'll continue with our discussion because from here onwards we'll carry on the discussion of the number 19, because number 19 occurs mainly starting from Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, and it moves on into more descriptions and more details, and we'll have a detailed discussion on this amazing prime number which the Almighty has repeated at several places, at many places in the Quran Majid. With this note, we take a leave. Pray for yourself, pray for us, pray for the Vilayat team. Take care of your neighbors, take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and keep everyone in your prayers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring peace to this world. May Allah Almighty hasten the appearance of the Imam of our time, Ajalallahu farajahum, and may he hasten his appearance and he comes and fills this world with peace. Wa akhiru dawana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.